Thanks, Jill. Okay, members of the board, I'm calling this meeting of the Oakville Public Library to order for Thursday, the 21st of March, 2024. Thank you for being with us this evening. Before we get into our meeting, I want to read our territorial acknowledgement, and that goes as follows. The Oakville Public Library is situated on the Treaty Number 14 and Treaty Number 22 treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Oakville is currently home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Regardless of where we come from, we are all interconnected through the land that we live on, the water that we use, and the air that we breathe. We are committed to a continuous learning journey and allyship. We seek to elevate Indigenous voices and lived experiences to cultivate reconciliation in Oakville. Okay. Madam Committee Clerk, are there any regrets this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Regrets from Councillor Chisholm and Andrew Cashman may be a few minutes joining.
Yes, I heard that. Thank you for that. Members of the board, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest to declare at this time? I am not seeing these, so we'll move on. Members of the board, you were circulated the minutes of the previous meeting of the board. Both the confidential meeting, closed session minutes, as well as the public session minutes. Is there anybody wishing to give me a motion with respect to those minutes at this time? Rebecca is moving them, seconded by Bill. Thank you. You're doing both the public and confidential minutes, I assume?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Any errors, omissions, or any discussion about the minutes? See none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes as circulated. Thank you, that's carried. Members of the board, we have two confidential items, consent items. 5.1, which is the Oakville Public Library Board Key Agenda Items Report, and the action is to receive, and the other one is the Health and Safety Report, and again, the action is to receive. Does anybody wish to separate either of those? Rebecca, your hand's still up. Are you wanting to separate one of those?
No, and sorry, I just wanted, it didn't say unraised hand, it just said raised hand still, but I saw that and I was like, am I giving a high five to everyone? Because I haven't seen this for longer.
Yeah.
Continue.
Well, high five is perfectly acceptable.
High five, everyone.
They're always in order.
That's right.
Anybody wish to separate? Thanks, Bill. There's no separation, so I'll look for motion to approve the recommendation, which is receipt on both those items. Can I get a mover, please? Thank you, Roderick. And thank you, Meredith. All in favor? Those are received. We do not have any confidential consent items, although we do have confidential discussion items, which we'll deal with later. And our discussion items start with 7.1, and that is the presentation from the Oakville Community Foundation. And I did see Wendy. Oh, there she is.
Hello.
She's in the Brady Bunch. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm joined today by our Director of Finance, Lori Armitage, and Fred Pinto, who's the chair of the Investment Committee. He's also a board member. And I'm just going to do a little introduction about the Community Foundation, which I'm assuming that Bill could also do because he's a past board chair, but I will just give a little overview about us and then hand it over to Lori, who will talk about the relationship between OPL and OCF and the investment components of that, and then Fred will be talking in detail about our investment strategy and results. So just to flip over to the next page, you'll see that the Community Foundation is one of over 200 community foundations in Canada. The number has been growing. Can we turn the page, please, on the slide? There we go. And most recently, Iqaluit is the newest member of the Community Foundations of Canada, and together we hold over $6 billion in assets. And we all follow different models. So we have a saying in the Community Foundation movement, which is, if you've seen one community foundation, you've seen one community foundation. So moving forward, you'll see that we are now 30 years old. But we are very young for a community foundation. If we can turn the page, please. The oldest community foundation in Canada was started in 1921. And the youngest one is started over 3 years ago. So you'll see our board is represented in the top left-hand corner, and I think Fred's somewhere in the back row. The staff team is on the right-hand side, and there's a really good-looking group of people down on the left-hand side accepting their 20-year fund award. And you might know the Hendersons, who were the winners of our very first inaugural Family Volunteer Cup. So a little bit about the Community Foundation Strategic Plan, which is on the next slide. We're in the midst of our 4-year plan. I think that'll come up shortly. I know how difficult it is to sometimes get it to work in virtual. And I appreciate the person pressing the button. So the Community Foundation sees its mission as leaving no one behind in the community. And our purpose is to build community through philanthropy. And we have a number of outward-facing objectives and strategic plan items that are aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as a number of operational goals. And in terms of our outward-facing goals, they're really focused on community, educational, and economic opportunities, as well as diversity. And you're probably familiar with a few of our initiatives around these: the Community Resiliency Fund. Under the economic and education goals, we are now running one of the largest student award hubs in Canada, which is surprising to me because we've managed to bring a number of awards together. There's over 1,100 students on our awards hub right now looking for bursaries and scholarships. And finally, our equity and diversity, which we take very seriously, as I know you do as well, because you're partners with us in the Dubwayman project. Our community is becoming very diverse. Every year that we're here, we're seeing greater diversity, and it's something that we're all responding to. And finally, our operational goals. You may have noticed we've been lowering our fees. I'm the daughter of a small businessman. I think it's so important to continue on that journey to make ourselves competitive with the other offerings out there. And similarly, we're becoming, we want to be an employer of choice and be a service that is the #1 local philanthropic solutions provider. So now I'm going to share this presentation back to Lori Armitage, who is our longest serving employee, Director of Finance. Our relationship with you has been 25 years, and I think Lori's been around for at least half of that. So there's no one better here to talk about it. So I'm going to pass that off to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for having us here tonight. If you could just switch to the next page, that would be great. So yeah, as Wendy mentioned, 25 years of partnerships. You're currently 30 years old, and you've been with us for 25 of those 30 years. So that's a great partnership we've had. It all started out in 1998 with the opening of the first Oakville Public Library Endowment Fund. Since then, there's been 2 more funds open. One is the Burkett Family Fund. And then there's a third fund, which is actually a flow-through fund, but the library is the sole beneficiary of the monies from that fund. So 3 funds currently held at the foundation for the library. So that's great. A couple other things that have happened in the past couple of years. You've been one of our partners in the Truth and Reconciliation, the Belong Oakville, and 25 Conversations. You've been a participant in our Give Oakville program that runs every fall. It's a little bit of a GoFundMe program that we run, and we build that every year. And you've been a participant with us over the past couple of years. And you've also been a recipient of some of the federal granting programs. So we've been participating in these federal granting programs over the past couple of years. And the Oakville has been able to get some grants through those programs, through the Canadian Healthy Communities Initiative, through the Community Service Recovery Fund, and also from the Gender Equality. So lots of partnership there, bringing dollars back to the library from us. So foundation support over the years so this is money not related to your fund, just other dollars that have flown from our foundation to you. So as mentioned, some of those federal granting programs have been about $50,000 over the past couple of years. And other support coming from our fund holders has been about $150,000 over these past 25 years. So looking at the chart down on the bottom right, your current balances with the 3 funds held at the foundation are $1.3 million. So quite a good number there. If you could flip to the next page, please. So this chart I love to show. This is a chart that shows over the last 25 years what the funds have done. So over the last 25 years, $1 million have been invested with the foundation. 300,000 have gone out the door, but yet still you have 1.3 million left at the foundation. So that's about a $600,000 growth that you've gained over those past 25 years. So I love this visual. It's just a great way to show how the model works and how you're able to benefit from being part of the foundation. If you can flip to the next slide, please. I think at this point, I'm going to pass you over to Fred. So Fred Pinto has been a volunteer, one of our board members and on our investment committee since 2018. Just last year in June, he's was elected or is now serving as our chair of our investment committee. So he's here to share a little bit more about our current investments and our investment manager.
Great. Thanks so much, Lori. And thank you very much for allowing us to have this presentation. And it is my first presentation. As Lori says, I am a rookie investment chair. I have been on the board of the Oakville Community Foundation for about 6 years. And I've been in the asset and wealth management industry in Canada for about 25 years plus. My most recent role and my role right now is as CEO of the CFA Society of Toronto with about 11,000 members in the Greater Toronto area. So I'm happy to present to you some information on our investment committee. I'll then talk a little bit about our investment manager, Fiera Capital, and then I'll transition into a couple of areas that I believe are very impactful, not just from the foundation's perspective, but also from an investment perspective, talking about responsible investing in ESG, and then also our impact investments in the local community. You can flip to the next slide, that would be great. So the investment committee, roughly 6 individuals, you can see them there. There is no shortage of investment people in Oakville, which is probably a cliche. And so we've been very fortunate to be able to attract a fairly strong lineup of investment professionals, all of whom have extensive experience in and around the investment sector. And what's really unique about our investment committee is that each of the individuals comes from a different perspective. So we've got folks who have corporate experience, large company experience, those who have institutional investment management experience, and then those who come from a private wealth arena. So I believe that encompasses a number of different areas, each of whom is bringing something to the table. Each of our investment professionals, as I mentioned, I'm a CEO of the CFA Society. Each of them have a CFA or a Chartered Financial Analyst designation. And so it really brings a lot of skill and talent to the table when we're reviewing the investment portfolio, along with looking at Fiera's investment performance. The committee meets roughly 4 times per year. And in those meetings, we typically have a representative from Fiera, who is our relationship manager, along with one of the teams or one of the portfolio management teams who is managing a specific investment asset class or area of the market that is in our portfolio. If you look at the pie chart to the top right-hand corner or in the top right-hand corner, it gives you a fairly accurate and current picture of where our assets are invested. So roughly 12.5% in Canadian equities, 15% in US equities, international is 15%. Traditional income, which would be primarily fixed income oriented investments, that's around 15%. And then we've also invested roughly 43% or almost half of the portfolio in what we consider to be non-traditional or alternative investments. Many of these are private market investments that, given their complementarity to the public markets, really act as an increased return opportunity. Over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, that has been one of the benefits that we've had investing with Fiera, is that they can access, given their size, and I'll talk about them in a second, a lot of these unique strategies, many of which aren't typically part of a foundation or a portfolio our size, But if you look at some of the large endowments and foundations, not just in Canada, but in the US, and primarily I'm thinking about some of the large US college endowments, they would typically have these types of investments. So that gives us a real return advantage, and at the same time allows us to have all of these various investment pools under the management of one manager. Let me go to that next slide and talk a little bit about Fiera. So Fiera is our investment manager or asset manager. They are a publicly traded firm. Their headquarters are in Montreal, roughly about $160 billion worth of assets under management. As I mentioned, over the last few years, they've been making a push into the private market area, and their strategy is kind of unique. Instead of looking at necessarily homegrown talent, what they will do is they will look to bring on seasoned investment teams in each of these various asset classes and bring them into the Fiera fold. The one advantage that you get there is you get deep expertise from individuals and teams who've been managing, say, private equity, private debt, infrastructure, real estate, and they're coming into a large asset manager, which basically allows them to scale up their business, worry about the investments, and then Fiera Capital would take care of all of the infrastructure or operational items like their finance, their back office, et cetera. So it's been a very successful model for Fiera as an investment manager. If you look at the middle of that slide, you will see the gross portfolio returns at the end of December 31st. Last year, a return of 10%, which was very competitive given that the market was a little challenging, particularly if you look at the U.S. equity market. In the U.S. equity market, while returns were really, really good, it was an extremely concentrated market in the top 7 investment people call it the Magnificent 7, basically the tech companies. So notwithstanding sort of that kind of outlier performance, Fiera did very, very well. Return of 9.9%, almost 10% over 1 year. And then over a 3- and 5-year period, they've actually been in the top quartile compared to their peer group managers, according to 2 surveys, the GMR survey, as well as the Mercer survey as of December 2023. Let me stop there and see if there are any questions about either our investment committee or Fiera before I go into the next couple of slides.
Not seeing any hands. I think you can proceed.
Great.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Kelso has a question for you.
Yes. 3 short questions. You mentioned the non-traditional investments being a large portion of the portfolio. What kind of risk is involved with those types of investments?
It's a great question. So there is risk. I would be misrepresenting them if I said that there wasn't any risk. The advantage there is that you're getting asset classes that complement very well some of the public equity markets that we have. So we've got Canadian equities, US equities, and fixed income. When you put together, and Fiera has a very extensive and deep macro team or asset allocation team, when you combine those private market investments with some of the public market investments, you're actually getting the benefit of diversification, but you're also getting the benefit of risk reduction, because those asset classes, I'm going to use some investment terms here, are non-correlated or lower correlated to public markets. So there is risk. I would be misrepresenting if I said that there's not risk. If we were to go kind of 100% in the portfolio, which we wouldn't, because that's not prudent and that's not pragmatic, there would be substantial risk because some of those asset classes tend to be more longer term in nature, and that would be a little bit, I would say, aggressive. The other advantage is because our foundation has an indefinite time horizon, right? We're not looking at winding up the foundation over a 3 or a 5-year period. We're able to withstand some of the shorter term risk that there are with some of those asset classes. But given the asset class and given the mixture of asset classes that we have, roughly 55% public and 45% private, I think that's a good blend to minimize that risk profile.
So it sounds like it's less risk than equity markets and maybe a higher risk than bond markets, something like that.
For sure, yeah, that's a fair point. And I would say it's a fair point, and it allows us to generate returns that we've seen over here, which is 9.9, 10% absolute return, which you in a normal bond market you wouldn't normally be getting. We haven't had a normal bond market over the last couple of years.
Thank you. My second question is, so here on the slide, we have the average annual rate of return for Fiera. Do you know what the average annual rate of return is for our portfolio in the last 20 years?
I don't have that number. Lori, you showed the cumulative value there. Do you have the actual return, the portfolio cumulative return?
I do have that. I don't have it right at my hand. I can get it to you, but I believe it's 8.9 or 8.15% over 20 years.
That's fantastic.
I'll have to get back and confirm that number for you, but it's around 8.5, I believe, over the last 20 years.
That's great. Thank you very much. And my last question is, what's the administration fee percentage for Fiera?
Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, it's about 60 basis points. So what we do is we take the fees that Fiera charges and we flow it directly right through to the fund holders based on their proportionate amount that they're invested in the actual portfolio. So last year for 2020.
Lori just froze there for a second. Sorry, look, Lori, I think you just froze there for a second.
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, 60 basis points last year.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Great. And that's coming up on a slide that Lori will take over shortly.
Okay, no more questions. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you so much. So one of the attractive things, next slide, please. One of the attractive things of consolidating our investments and our portfolio with Fiera is they are emerging as a very strong manager who has a core capability in ESG or responsible investing. I'm going to say, for those of you that haven't been sort of paying attention to this market, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. Perhaps in the US, it has somewhat of a negative connotation, but I'll sort of spare and save the political comments for now. It really is a sound investment process. Lots of institutions, lots of large pension funds, including the Canada Pension Fund, the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, have been instituting an ESG framework or a responsible investing framework for well over 10 or 15 years. Fiera Capital is actually emerging as one of the leaders in Canada in this space. And what that allows us to do is that allows us to participate really as an owner of those securities or those holdings that we have. Fiera votes all their proxies in the spring, which is now, although it doesn't feel like that outside today, is proxy season. And so you will notice that a lot of managers will submit proxies to large organizations on a variety of different topics, like board governance, compensation, the environment obviously is a big one, as well as labor policies and things like that. Fiera is also a signatory of the UN Principles of Responsible Investment. They're a member of the Canadian Coalition of Good Governance. And through our commitment with Fiera, we're also a participant in the Canadian philanthropy commitment on climate change. So I would say when we started our journey with Fiera a few years ago, we had some questions, to be honest, in terms of how they were approaching responsible investing and whether they were really filling out kind of a checkbox, like, so yes, we're doing this, yes, we're doing this, yes, we're doing this, but perhaps didn't have the level of understanding that they have today. And certainly when we look across all of their investments, not just the public market ones, the private markets ones, they're also applying that framework to the overall investment process. And what that does is it basically considers a whole series of risks that probably 20 plus years ago, investment managers wouldn't have considered because it wouldn't have at the time been related to concepts like shareholder value or performance returns. Today, because the market has evolved really dramatically, we have a very good sense in terms of how our managers are applying a responsible investing framework, and Fiera is really at the leading edge of that. Typically, once a year, we will get their head of sustainable investments to come in and do a presentation for us. They'll submit all the work that they've done, all the processes that we've done. We did that in the summer of last year, and we as an investment committee were fairly satisfied with their actions and their responses. If you go to the next slide is on impact investing. And I will say this is one of the emerging areas in a lot of traditional investment funds and portfolios. The Oakville Community Foundation is actually at the leading edge in terms of their exposure to impact investment. As you can see there, we have a number of different impact investments. And what those investments do is they ensure that the investment is generating a social, cultural or societal or environmental return along with a financial return. As of this year, we have made a commitment to invest 3% of all of the assets from our endowed funds, roughly about $2 million, as the slide says, in these impact investments. And that really takes the value of what we do as a portfolio and demonstrates how we're making a difference in the local community. So you can see there, we've got Food for Life, we've got the Children's Aid Foundation of Halton, and a number of others. And quite frankly, this is one of the most unique things about the Community Foundation is that we've made this commitment to these impact investments. I think that's it for me, and I'm going to turn it back over to Lori to talk about spending policy. And that's the next slide.
If you can flip to the next slide, thank you. So spending policy, what is a spending policy? Spending policy is our policy that determines what we charge for being part of our funds. So the spending policy is reviewed annually by the Finance Audit and Risk Committee. It's reviewed annually and then it's approved by the board. So as Wendy mentioned on one of her first slides, one of our strategic goals is to bring that OCF fee, so that administration fee, down. When we first started looking at it, I think our fee was at 1.25% on an annual basis. And since then, we've brought that down to just starting in January this year to the 1.145%. So that's one of our strategic goals, to continue to lower that fee down to 1% every year as much as we can. So back to that, what do we charge you, or what are the funds charged? There's actually two fees that are charged to the fund. One is that administration fee that I just spoke about, and that's charged on a tiered basis. So there you can see in the chart on the slide here, the administration fees. On the first $2 million, it's 1.145, and the next $3 million, it's 50, and it goes down as the assets grow. I'd like to say that these are the fees that we actually charge our agency fees. So the library funds are considered to be one of our agency management fees, and we're charging these fees based on a cost recovery basis. So we're not trying to make any profit on that. We're trying to partner together with bringing your money into our pool and just charge the fees what it actually costs us to run the pool and to run the administration. As mentioned earlier, the second fee that's charged directly to the fund is the investment manager fee. So as I said, last year, that was 60 basis points. And that's whatever fee charges us, we just pass it on to the fund holder proportionately to their amount that they're invested in the pool. Maybe I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions on anything before we go any further. I think you're on mute.
Board members, just want to remind everybody there's a presentation screen, so it's hard for the chair or for others to see. If you're waving frantically, please use your hand up button if you have questions. Not seeing any. Okay, move on.
Okay, great. So we're coming closer to the end of the presentation. If you could just move on to the next slide. So the foundation team and board of directors. So who are we? So if we flip down to the next page, we'll have a picture of who our current board of directors are. So annually at our AGM, which this year I believe is on June 6th, it's actually going to be a virtual AGM this year. Any new directors are, voted in to the board. So they serve, I believe it's a 3-year term. And these are our current board of directors. We got a great group of people that help oversee the foundation. And then on the next page, we actually have the staff, if you want to move. So we are a small but mighty staff. We are 11 people, but we make up only 9.4 FTE. We have a couple of part-time employees on here. So this is us. And then if you want to move down to the next slide, just have a couple of key dates coming up. We've already passed some of the first two, so the February 5th and the February 28th and the March 2nd events. But coming up on April 22nd, Earth Day, we have the launch of our climate report. On May 30th, we are celebrating our 30th anniversary with a tree planting event. So our intention is to plant 300 trees. And we welcome anyone to come out and join us in the tree planting. As mentioned before, our AGM is on June 6th, and that's going to be a Zoom webinar this year. And then we have our Give Oakville campaign that starts on Friday, November 15th. And then to mark your calendars, our holiday event is Wednesday, December 4th. So I guess that kind of concludes our presentation, unless anyone has any questions.
I think you are question free.
Excellent. Well, please feel free to reach out to myself or anyone else if you think of something after the fact. We'd be happy to get back to you.
Great. Thank you, Lori, Fred, and
I think there's one question.
Yep, late comer there. Meredith, you have the floor.
Thank you. Sorry, just squeezing in a quick question. I'm not sure if this is a question for the Oakville Community Foundation or for the library. I noticed that the OPL wasn't involved in Give Oakville every year, just a couple of years in the last little while. And I was wondering if there was a reason behind that, because it sounds like a great opportunity.
I can respond to that. It's up to OPL to decide whether or not it wants to participate. As long as it's a local charity within Oakville, we open the doors to anybody who wants to participate. But that's at your staff's discretion.
Okay, and there's a communication as far as when the application is open?
Oh, yes. There's lots of communication going out, and it's very simple to apply. We're just looking for some basic information, and if there's just historical information that people have used before, we're happy to use it again. So we try and make it as easy as possible to use, and always welcome Tara and the team to apply.
I think that happens mid-summer, I'm going to say, when those applications go out.
Yeah. And I can speak to, I mean, we tend to try and identify projects that we think would really work with the Give Oakville process, and it's a large variety of community organizations that participate in it. So we don't necessarily want to go in it for every year unless we're in it for a particular project that we're looking to fundraising for, aware that there are a lot of really great organizations in the community also looking for funding. That being said, that this year we'll have to explore again about potentially the digitization or one of the other projects that we have ongoing might be a good fit for this year. So we do kind of every year, we kind of look at what we have going on, what are the projects that we have, and where it would make sense to avail ourselves of the Give Oakville process.
Well, you just read my mind, because I was going to suggest that we might want to look at the digitization project. That's a project obviously near and dear to the board's hearts, and I think that it would be something with the community be really interested in preserving our history of this great town. So thank you, Lori, Wendy, and Fred, for your presentations tonight. Thanks for taking care of our money. We appreciate it very much. And
our pleasure.
I'll look for a motion to receive the presentation today. Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Bill. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop because I saw a hand go up. Avis. Everybody's really slow on the uptick tonight. Did you have a question, Avis? Oh, you were just
No, I was just putting
oh, thank you,
putting a motion or not.
Thank you. Last chance for questions or comments. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Wendy.
We're going to meet to 7.2. We're going to move to 7.2. This is the audit governance review, and this is based on a request made by the board on November 16th. Tara, do you have comments?
No, I'm just going to hand it right over to Jade.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members of the committee. If I could ask actually that the presentation come up. Perfect. Thank you. I'm happy to be here tonight as a follow-up to the board meeting in November, where we received the request to walk through the role of the board with respect to the audit function and financial reporting function in general. I put together a quick agenda. Sorry, if I could ask you to change to the next slide. So I have an agenda here to organize the various topics that I'll be talking about this evening, starting with the municipal overview of the audit process, and then looking at the purpose of audit committees and the different risks and financial reporting oversight items. I then wanted to take a few minutes to speak to library-specific items as they relate to the financial statements. Next slide, please. So in terms of the municipal overview, the annual audit is a requirement under the Municipal Act, and the financial statements are presented using public sector accounting standards. So once the library statements are completed, they are consolidated into the Town of Oakville statements, along with 7 other entities, such as the local business improvements areas, as well as Oakville Hydro, to name a few. And although it's a requirement under the Municipal Act, the audit serves several purposes, including ensuring financial accountability, mitigating the potential of fraud or mismanagement of funds, and then overall providing transparency to both taxpayers and donors on the investment side. And audits also help identify improvement from a financial control standpoint. And so as management, I really don't look at them as a necessary evil. To me, it's a third-party opinion that reaffirms information that has come to the board throughout the year. And this third-party validation and transparency is really the key to maintaining the public's confidence in our finances. And so for you as the board, I do hope that you see more value in the audit than just an annual compliance item, because it really should help confirm information that you're hearing and basing financial decisions on throughout the year. Next slide, please. So in terms of the purpose of audit committees, so in your situation, the board acts as an audit committee with respect to financial reporting, and the board provides oversight on managing risks, the quality and integrity of reporting, and compliance with laws and regulations. And it's really important to keep in mind that management is still tasked with the ownership of these items, but the board's responsibility is the oversight. And so I realize that oversight is a bit of an all-encompassing word. So I'll walk through some of the ways that we as management feel we're helping ensure that the information is being presented to you so that you can gain comfort over the financial reporting process. Next slide, please. And so it's hard to look at risks in isolation, as they really are all interrelated. But I've listed a few of the key ones here above, and then we'll discuss in more detail the financial risk combined with the quality and integrity of the financial reporting information. And so 2 of the main items that the board is ultimately responsible for the oversight of. Next slide, please. And so listed above are some of the best practices performed by those charged with governance, so yourself as the board. And the first key thing is understanding the roles and responsibilities of the auditor. And so in the next slide, we'll go over this in a bit more detail, but it is outlined in the introductory pages of the financial statement. So in the audit opinion, in KPMG's words directly. Another key item would be appointment of the auditor. And so typically the board would also appoint the auditor to ensure that they are a third party who's independent from management. And in this situation, it's a bit different since the financial statements are consolidated with the town, and the Municipal Act actually stipulates the requirement that the library have the same auditor as the municipality. This said, though, all the related entities are solicited for feedback at the management level each year on the audit process. And if there are concerns, the board can certainly provide feedback to the town for consideration. And the auditors still do come and confirm their independence from management to you directly each year. We feel oversight. Oh. Sorry, I thought I heard someone there. We feel oversight is also achieved by reviewing the quarterly financial statements that Tara presents, as well as the audited financial statements and the audit findings report that the auditors bring forward in May. If there were internal control issues identified, the board would also receive a letter outlining the issues where it's written by the auditor and it includes management's response to any of the issues. And internal controls really start with the approval of the budget and include all of our policies, so our purchasing policy, payroll policy, and really anything that impacts finance. And it's also best practice to review benchmarks similar to the KPIs that the library uses. So the amount of spent on electronics versus paper resource is an example, and comparing those figures with other libraries. And so all of these items are really designed to help ensure you as the board are getting information to have oversight on the financial reporting process. This said, though, you do have the ability to request additional information as you see fit. So as the board, if you ever feel you need additional information to get comfort on the reporting process, please let us know. And this can be routed through Tara or myself, but you also have the ability to ask questions to the auditors directly. And that's not just at year end. That could be any time throughout the year if you had concerns as well. Next slide, please. So the auditors have a lot of responsibility with the reporting process, but before discussing it, it's important to highlight again that management is ultimately responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the statements, as well as the internal control environment. The auditor's objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether or not the statements are free as a whole from material misstatement, and the auditors issue a report that includes their opinion. And reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not a guarantee. And the reason being is from a cost standpoint, it just doesn't make sense to audit every single transaction. So that's why auditors set their materiality. So they presented that in November, and they outlined the testing that they're doing in their audit plan report. And then the auditors also evaluate the accounting policies and the reasonableness of management's estimates. And this wording on screen right now is taken directly from the auditor's opinion included in the financial statements. So any discussions related on these items will be included in the audit findings report that's prepared by KPMG, and it will be before you at the May meeting. Next slide, please. So in terms of library-specific items, I talked earlier how the review of the quarterly financial statements are a mitigating control. But I did want to take the opportunity to highlight that the way the organization budgets is different from our requirements in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. But these two reporting methods do reconcile, and I'll highlight again with 2023 numbers in May, but I did want to show it here as I think it's fundamental to the understanding. And so on screen here, you see 2022 numbers. And so last year, after repaying the operating surplus to the town, there was still a financial statement surplus of $28,295. And the notes reconcile this, and it really comes down to the items on screen. So for budget purposes, the library treats its acquisition of its collection as an expense in the year it was purchased. But for accounting purposes, we set up the purchase as an asset and then we amortize it over its useful life. So we're on the accounting side, we're really trying to recognize the cost in the year the asset was used. Similarly, for accounting purposes on the statements, we also need to show any change in employee future benefit costs, which is a non-cash item, so it's not budgeted. So on the accounting side, again, we're trying to measure the expense when it was incurred. So if I worked for the library for 30 years and might be entitled to benefits when I retire, we expense that cost in those years that I work and became eligible for the future benefit. But for budgeting purposes, we're including that in the budget when I'm retired and true cash changes hands between the benefit provider and the library. So there is a timing difference, again, between the two methods. And then the last two items in the reconciliation relate to the surplus. So at the end of the year, any surplus that is repaid to the town directly relates to operating surplus. And any change in the Development Reserve Fund or the Oakville Community Reserve Fund is not repaid, as it's library specific and it didn't come from taxpayers' funds. So this too needs to be on the reconciliation to get down to the zero, and how the budget after the surplus is repaid aligns to the financial statements. And so both the budget process and the financial reporting process serve a purpose. So on the budget side, it's key to understand the true cash impact in order to levy the appropriate amount. But from the financial reporting standpoint, it's really following the standards and measuring the cost in the year it was incurred, rather than when cash changes hands. And again, I'll highlight this in May with the 2023 numbers, but I did want to take the opportunity to highlight it again now, because I think it's important to understand how the two methods are connected and reconcile with the audited statements. Next slide, please. So the last item I wanted to talk about were the investments. And so when the financial statements are presented in May, you will see that the investments have continued to be held at cost, even though this year there is some flexibility under the accounting standards because of the new standard implemented. And this decision was made based on consistency with the town's reporting for all of the consolidated entities, as well as reporting feedback we received from other municipalities. So the auditors will likely speak to the appropriateness of this decision, but at a high level, until the gains and losses are realized, it was felt that the impacts of the swings in the market, it didn't make sense to bring to the financial statements each year. This said, though, the fair market value will continue to be disclosed in the notes to the financial statements, so that this figure is available to you as well as the public from an investment review standpoint. So this concludes what I'd like to say on the governance side of the financial statements, and hopefully this was useful and helps provide a bit more clarity on the board's oversight role with regards to financial reporting. And the auditors will speak to management and accounting policies, management estimates, and any deficiencies in internal controls identified, as well as provide an opinion on the financial statements themselves in May. At this time, is there anything I can help with clarifying? And keep in mind, this isn't a one-time question, so please feel free to request additional information throughout the year as well as you see fit.
Thanks, Jade. I have one question. Years ago on the library, this is probably 10 years ago at minimum, maybe longer, I actually asked our auditors for a document that they provided, and it was a guidebook to the roles and responsibilities of an audit committee. We, in fact, are the audit committee for the library, and I'm wondering if you might be able to reach out to the auditors on our behalf and see if they have that document, because I think we may have changed auditors since that time. I don't remember, but if you could see if that would be such a document available, just so that board members can, on their own time, take some time to actually better synthesize their responsibilities as an audit committee member.
Yeah, for sure I can. And in the audit report, the audit findings report, KPMG does put links to a number of these resources. Yeah. The one thing I would keep in mind is all boards interact a bit different depending on the risk of the organization. And so some of the comments included in those resources, you'll need to take into account that they might be speaking to a publicly traded company, things like that as well. Yeah. But yeah, I'll make sure to highlight the links to that in May.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much. Members of the board, any questions for Jade? Okay, Meredith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jade. That was a really great presentation. I just want, one of your comments was about financial benchmarks. And so I just wanted to clarify. So the auditors that has been chosen for us by the town, so they would have access to similar library organizations to be able to benchmark some of our key financial numbers too.
Sorry, I do think there was a bit of a misunderstanding there. When I was talking about the KPIs, I meant in terms of management having KPIs for that. The auditors don't necessarily do the comparison themselves. If there's specific ones we can look at that you're interested in, we certainly can look to see if they have resources available. But the KPIs that I know that you have someone setting the budget, they're included in the budget book and other times throughout the year as well. But those come from management and not from the auditors directly. I can see if they have any information from others though.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Meredith. Anything further for Jade? Rod?
Yes, Jade, I noticed in one of the slides it says the library's financial statements are consolidated into the town's financial statements. But at the back of the town's financial statement, there would be still a appendix or whatever with the library's segregated statement as part of that overall town statement, would there not?
So the library issues standalone audited statements, but in terms of the consolidation with the town, they are embedded within the town statements. So they aren't attached separately within the town statements. It's all embedded on a line-by-line basis. So if the library had cash, it's included within the cash number on the town's financial statements.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Rod. Anything further? Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? That's carried. Andrew, are you prepared to chair for like 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
Thank you. My car alarm appears to be going off and I need to go find out what's going on. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So that was 7.2. Moving on to 7.3, year-to-date financial status indicators. I believe, is this Tara or Belinda who's presenting this?
No, it'll be me.
Okay, take it away.
So continuing on with our financials this evening, what you have before you is our year-to-date financials for the period ending the 29th of February. So it's still quite early in the year, but there are some things to note in that in administrative services, we are seeing that we are overspending a little bit compared to year-to-date budgeted, but as noted in the report, OLA, the Ontario Library Association Super Conference, normally happens at the beginning of the year, happens in January. So we do see some shifting or front loading of some of those budgets. As well, we continue to see savings in the branch staffing budgets. And then we do see, as indicated here, the money we received from the Oakville Community Foundation for our elder in residence or knowledge keeper in residence, as we updated the term, related to that, which we will spend in 2024. But I am happy to take any questions, and Belinda can assist as needed.
Thank you, Tara. Members of the board, are there any questions regarding the financial status indicators? Avis, go ahead, please.
So just a question on the on that elder in residence. So essentially, we've recognized all of the revenue that got, I guess, deferred from 2023. We recognized all of the revenue in 2024 in the month, but we will be seeing the expenses come through the remainder of the year.
Yeah, so this is funds that we received from the OCF for this project. We are still in the process of basically going out and recruiting is probably the best term for our knowledge keeper in residence. So that project hasn't actually been fully realized. We will be fully realized this year when we bring in our knowledge keeper in residence. And this fund is to pay them as well as to support the projects that they will participate in through their time with us.
So is the amount that we've received 101,000?
That is my understanding, yes.
Yeah, and so yeah, I think like oftentimes you would only recognize the revenue over the period, like kind of match it to the expense, but it seems like we've recognized it up front. if I'm understanding this correctly. And
I'm gonna see if Belinda can answer that, because the town really guides us in how things are reported.
Understood, yeah.
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. What we did was the revenue was rolled over it was received in 2023, it was a little more than that, and there were a few expenses in 2023, around $3,000. I think what was received was about 105,000, but because we have a fiscal year, we just roll that money right into the fiscal year. So we assume then that the expenses will be incurred over the fiscal year. So that's why it's sitting there and it's ready to be used, and it will be drawn down. And then if it wasn't fully used by the end of 2024, we would roll it over again. So we don't put it on the balance sheet. We just keep it in the regular, I guess we would say on our income statement essentially. So that's the difference here. It's really just semantics.
Okay, I'm used to when something is deferred, it would hit the balance sheet, but you're saying it just goes.
Correct.
I think I understand. So there's kind of an unevenness of you're going to have the revenue impact up front, and then see the expenses come through the year.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
Was that everything for you, Avis?
Yeah.
Excellent, thanks. Rod, you're next.
Sure. I'm referring to Appendix A, the nice chart there. It gives us a lot of information. Is the second column year-to-date actuals by program area, should that be February 2023 at the top? And it says right now it says February 2022, and I would have thought we were comparing to the previous, not 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah, that would be my expectation, eh, Belinda?
Yeah, correct. What page are you looking at?
Appendix A, a part of this year-to-date financial status.
It's the charts, Belinda. It's on page 31 of the actual package or the appendix of that report.
Right, I'm looking at it right now.
Should it be 2024, like 2024 actuals versus budget?
Yeah, that's what it is, exactly. Yep.
Oh, okay. So it should say.
So it should be the second, says 2024 year-to-date budget, and then it should be February 2024 year-to-date actuals. Yeah, so that's
okay. All right. Okay.
Oh yes, sorry, my bad. I just noticed that. I didn't even. Thank you for catching that. I will make sure that is fixed. Thank you.
Okay. Good catch, Rob. Anything else for you? Rod, are you finished?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. All right, Meredith.
Just a quick question about the savings under the personnel services. It's quite a big gap, and apologies if you said it, Tara, already, but is that savings as a result of staffing gaps, or is that more of a result of a timing issue with the collective bargaining?
It isn't impacted by the collective bargaining. It is gapping essentially as positions become vacant and then people move, and then it's the backfilling of it. I can't speak at the top of my head about exactly what positions those are, but it's directly related just to movement and gapping.
Okay, it seems like a pretty big variance for so early in the year. Like, is that like an issue of lots of vacant positions, and is there implications from those staffing gaps?
I'm not aware of us dealing with a larger than normal vacancy issue, but I can definitely look into it and get back to the board.
Okay. And lastly, Bill.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the numbers. I was just thinking though that if somebody was to see this Appendix A without seeing the financial status indicators, I was just thinking it might be helpful if the labels here might be a little more informative. So they're costs, but I mean it doesn't really. If somebody just came off the street, for instance, and said, "Oh, February 2024 year-to-date actuals to program area," I don't know. It doesn't really explain what it is to me. I know it's kind of maybe it's just me, but when I was going through it, I was like, well, yeah, right, okay. And I thought, oh, maybe the labels could be a little better, but anyway.
So when you talk about labels, what labels?
Oh, just what it is. That doesn't really explain to me what that chart is actually saying.
So on the appendix, the year-to-date actuals by program areas, the title, you want it to be a bit more descriptive or more labor.
Yeah, the costs, but yeah, that's all.
Okay. Yep, no, Belinda and I chat about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Bill. I have one remark as well, and similar to Bill, it's maybe just how we represent the data, but looking at the report, if we look at the chart on page 2, where it shows the year-to-date program variance, it's a bar chart, obviously, and I see how you've done it with the different program areas. I wonder if it would, just for representing the entire year's budget, if it might be worthwhile doing a stacked line chart where we could sort of see the anticipated progression throughout the year, so we'd have a better sense, like if we're over or under February, how much does that contribute towards the total year variance, right? Maybe Celso might understand what I'm getting at, but I don't know. Tara, Belinda?
No, Belinda and I can talk about it.
Yeah. I think just the snapshot of time, I appreciate that is the purpose of the report, but I do, I'd like to be able to see sort of how we're trending as well overall.
I appreciate the suggestions too. Anything you can suggest that makes it easier for you to understand, I'm happy to change.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Belinda. All right, Jeff, I see that you're back, so maybe I'll ask for the motion, and then are you prepared to take back over? Excellent. Okay, didn't hear you, but I assume your car's still there, so.
Yeah, car's still there. You go ahead and do the motion, and then I'll take over for the next item.
Perfect. All right, can I get a motion to receive this report, please? Bill, seconded by Rebecca. Last opportunity for any further questions or comments? All right, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, and I yield the chair back to Councillor Arnaud.
Thanks, Andrew. Just to keep you all apprised, I'm at my business office right now, and there's a lot of people in the parking lot, and somebody just decided to monkey with my car. So all's good. It's there. Okay, moving on to 7.4, Fleet Services Service Level Agreement. This is another of our service level agreements. This one's related to our courier van that we bought last year. Tara, do you have any further comments on this, or just there to answer questions?
I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. So this is being circulated today for feedback, and at some point in the fullness of time, it will come back for our approval, I assume, and signature. Yeah.
Correct.
Any feedback? Celso?
Yeah. By the way of feedback, the service agreement is good at specifying what the town is responsible for and what the library is responsible for, but it's silent on two things, and I wonder if that's on purpose or not. One is insurance, and two is body work. So in case of an accident or, God forbid, something like that, a repair that is required on the body work, if that should be there as well.
So the library is actually fully covered under the town's insurance. So that's why it isn't included, because we're actually in addition to their piece to it. So it's covered under that. Although I'm happy to add a statement that says that as part of it, if that's needed. And as for body work, it does speak to repairs, and I thought we had a conversation where it would include all of those repairs, but you are right in that it specifies brake repairs, electrical repairs, engine repairs, but not necessarily body work repairs. No, it's a good catch, because that was our conversation. So I'll go back and confirm that and then update it.
Thank you. And my last comment here is, again, by the way of feedback, is whenever I see a service agreement of any kind, I think it should contain some sort of response time specification or expectation. So, and you probably heard me talk about that before, but sorry if I sound like a broken record, but it's a suggestion as well as perhaps to see if there's any possibility to include some sort of a response time expectation or objective.
I can certainly go back and talk to Roads and Works about that. It can sometimes be challenging to get exact pieces to it. It is our only courier vehicle, and they are aware of that. So if they do identify that they can't get to it, or there's a piece missing or a part, especially these days, parts can take a long time. We do have an option of renting for that piece. But I can go back and see whether or not there's a statement in there that we both feel comfortable with.
Exactly, and you can probably carve out items that wouldn't be within their control. So, for example, a part that it has to be back order or something like that. But in terms of how fast they should or they would be expected to respond to your request, what you wouldn't want is for that car to be sitting there because there's 10 other cars that they're taking care of, and yours is sort of the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, I'll have to confirm with them because Roads and Works takes care of the entire town fleet. So I'm not entirely sure where we fall in that priority, especially given during winter control, we would definitely be further down than say a winter control vehicle. But we can definitely have those conversations and put a statement in there about that for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, if there's ever a time to negotiate, it's now before you sign the agreement, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my question.
Sure, I'll just jump in on there for a second with my hat on as a town councilor. I think that you'll be hard pressed getting a time commitment in that agreement. Remember, this isn't a commercial contract. This is an MOU, so it's an understanding, and so some of that is unwritten. The town will, the fleet services folks will manage vehicle repairs on the basis of priority. So, for example, snow removal equipment in the winter would be top priority, and so forth and so on. So, Tara can certainly go back and raise that issue, but I don't think that, based on my experience in the past, I don't think they would commit to that because there'd be way too much, detail would have to go into it about creating charts of priority and that sort of thing. So they are very efficient in managing their responsibilities under our MOUs. So I can't imagine it would be a problem, but Tara can certainly talk to them. And I just noticed that Colleen popped up. I mean, she may have a comment. She may be contradicting everything I just said.
You are absolutely correct, Cherno.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm going to put that on repeat because I'm going to miss that soon. Bill, you're up next.
Yeah. First of all, I saw the truck today, and it's a beauty. So I was very impressed. It looks very substantial. Anyway, this may not be a perfect time to bring this up, but this service level agreement, bringing it in-house versus the way we were doing it before, and is there a sort of a net? What's the net result of that to the library? I was just wondering, like, are we winning or losing, or is this a good thing for us, or what?
In terms of costing, it equals out because we did have to bring staff in-house. We didn't have to ask for extra money to do that. The purchase of the vehicle was a capital request, and so that was an initial setup cost. What it does allow us is to create our own schedules and our own flexibility. Right. And so before we were at a little bit of the whim of the contractor and when they delivered. So he would do 2 runs. But those 2 runs would be back to back starting around 5:30 in the morning. We've shifted that, and now we do 2 runs. We do one in the morning and one in the afternoon, which actually means that things get around the system much faster, and there's a faster return for people to get their holds for items that are moving between branches to be delivered. So it gives us a lot more flexibility. It also gives us opportunity to take over. So one of the things that the courier are doing besides just delivering books between is they're also taking over the tasks of the OPL Express locations. So when we originally introduced them, these were managed by staff at branches having to get in their cars, drive to the different OPL Express locations and manage it. But now because it's in-house, we're allowed a lot more flexibility. And so we're actually just finalizing the switching over from branches being responsible for the OPL Express locations to our courier drivers to be able to do that, which then allows the staff to stay in the branch and really do their primary function. And the couriers are out and about anyway, so it just makes a lot of sense for them to take that over. It also provides capacity for us as we continue to expand the OPL Express locations without adversely impacting branches.
Okay, good answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Is there further comment or question on this MOU? Seeing none, can I get a motion to, I believe it's just to receive? I believe is the action. I just need to look at this here. Yes, it is just for receive for feedback this month. I think I already said that and already forgot. Can I get a motion to receive, please? Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Avis. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. 7.5, human resources policies. Tara?
Yeah, so the board will remember that we brought these 3 policies to the board in February. The board had no comment on the time at and away from work policy and the professional development and educational assistance policy. So they remain, and we're looking for approval for all of them, but those remain unchanged from February. What you will see is an updated recruitment policy that we have taken and matched with the equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic framework as was requested to better bring in the work that we did last year and we will continue to do this year into defining it more directly into the actual recruitment policy. So you will see that. Additionally, I will mention that we did further research related to the police record check. You'll note that Halton Hills actually does this exact process. So we had some time talking with them about what that was like. We did take a look at, as questions came up last month about the criminal record check and the vulnerable sector screening. We do take care to make sure that when we identify positions that require that added vulnerable sector screening, that there really is needed. We're talking about our frontline programmers, they're working directly with children or really vulnerable populations, and that the criminal record check is used for the remainder of the staff. This comes into particularly into effect when, as was mentioned, using potentially a third-party service. A third-party service won't do a vulnerable sector. And so that's the added challenge for us. And we strongly feel that doing some of them one way and some of it another would be a little bit of an internal nightmare in terms of having to manage what's coming in through here, what's coming in through there. So the way we're looking to approach it is we're going to implement the procedure. We're going to look to not overwhelm the police departments in these various areas by asking for 140 different updates all at once. And then over through that process, potentially make adjustments to the procedure as it plays out and through our ongoing conversations. But happy to take questions on any of it.
Questions on these policies, members of the board? Celso.
Yeah, just a quick question on a professional development policy. I understand that we've already gone through the feedback process, so this is just out of curiosity. It states that the library supports employees in that regard, and it's subject to budget and in accordance to established procedures. Is there a written procedure on how an employee can submit an application, who approves, and so on and so forth?
There is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, on behalf of the police board, I just want to say thank you for the additional revenue. And can I get a motion to approve the policies as presented? Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Rebecca. Further comments or questions before I call the vote? All in favor? Those are carried. Thank you. Halton Information Providers Update.
I'm actually going to pass this over to Joe.
Okay. Hi, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. Before I kind of provide the board a quick update, I want to introduce Marcus Logan to the newer board members. Marcus is our manager at OPL. He's the manager of community development and engagement. One of the pieces in his portfolio is HIP. Now, before I pass over the board for questions, I'll give the board kind of a quick kind of two-minute overview of HIP again, just to remind the board that, I mean, OPL leads the HIP joint venture and manages the Halton Community Service Directory, which is hipinfo.ca, together with the different municipalities within Halton. That's, I mean, Burlington, Halton Hills, Milton Public Library, and the Halton Resource Connection. Last year, we've had great growth from 2022, so we've increased their usage by about 42% last year. It's still getting up there to close to pre-pandemic numbers, but great growth. The group has taken on a few major projects, which is the integration and the merger between, to help lead with Inform Ontario and Inform Canada. We're also working on a new MOU with the region to essentially provide an internal service catalog through the HAPE database. So there's a lot going on within this specific team. So with Marcus here with me as the leader within this group, I'd like to pass over the board to see if there's any questions regarding the report.
Any questions for Joe or Marcus? I'm not seeing any. So I think that was a well-received report. So thank you for that. Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? Thank you, Rod. Seconded by Andrew. Last chance for comments or questions before I call the vote. All in favor? That's received. Thank you, Joe. And Marcus, who we can't see. Okay, 7.7, CEO update.
Just wait for the slides to come up.
Okay.
You just take me to the next page. This is an update on 60-mile construction project. We are continuing to see some delays related to steel. The first delivery is expected to arrive next week, and fingers crossed that the remainder will arrive in early May. Until the steel is on site, the contractor isn't looking to really update the timelines, but once we have it and they can better estimate the remainder of the construction, I'll bring updated timelines to the board. Right now, we are still anticipating opening at the end of Q2 2025. Next. So the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Facility Master Plan is still underway. We're just in the final stages. As I mentioned in February, we will be looking to schedule workshops with both the Oakville Board and Council in April to review. I almost had a date to bring you for today, but there was some last-minute shuffles because I think it was the United Way Awards night was the night we were looking at, and that's obviously not going to work for a number of you. So we are still looking at identifying dates, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then following the workshops, a report will go out for public feedback, and then all of that will be incorporated in the final report that'll come to both the board and then to council for approval. I'm very excited for the board to see the master plan. I think it will set us up really well for the next 10 to 30 years. Next. The new central design project. So we're very excited that the RFP is out and on the street because this project is actually happening. We had approximately 35 different possible firms attend, well, 35 people from a variety of firms attend a required site visit on March 18th, where they toured both the post office site as well as the current central library. They asked really great questions, not just about the building, but about public libraries and where we want to be right now and where we want to be in the future. So I'm very excited to see when the bids start to come in and we do that evaluation process. And I do believe the bids close at the end of next week, and so we'll start looking at that in April. I also wanted to mention that I had the pleasure of meeting George Farrow last Friday. George Farrow was the original architect of the Central Branch, as well as Centennial Square and the pool. And he was lovely enough to sit down with me and talk to me a little bit about what that experience was like. And in fact, we're looking forward to having him potentially come down to the library and do a session along with potentially artist Ron Baird, who did the gorgeous metal gates that were are in the Central Library, and we'll look to bring it with us. I think the community would be really interested to know where we started. That way we know exactly how we want to proceed. So next slide, please. So we will be introducing I can never pronounce it, naloxone to the Oakville branch. Thank you. This is done in partnership with the town of Oakville. In fact, information memo went to council, I think it was yesterday. I will be forwarding it out to the board tomorrow. That way you have the same information. I'm just letting council and the board know that if this is something that we'll be introducing to all town facilities, including libraries. It will be the inhaler version of it in order to be able to assist with possible opioid overdoses in the facilities. This has been a growing concern in all of town facilities, and it is happening with increasing regularity, not to the same degree that you're seeing in say, Toronto or Hamilton, but still I know it will be a comfort to staff to be able to have these in case they're needed. There are a number of all municipalities that already have them in place. Some of you may have seen last year, Burlington Public Library introduced them, and that was really well received through social. So we're very pleased to see the reaction from the community about this as well. And the kits will be available through the right by the AED units, and they'll be in a plastic box. So again, as I mentioned, there was an information memo prepared by the town in partnership with us that went to council, and I will also forward that out to the board following this meeting. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Terry. Before you leave that, I just wanted to use this as an opportunity as a commercial announcement that every member of the board and anybody watching in the public should consider picking up a naloxone kit to hold on their person or in their vehicles or somewhere in their first aid kit. They are free. Everybody in Ontario is entitled to get one. You do not need a prescription. You can go to any licensed pharmacist in Ontario and get a naloxone kit. They're very easy to use. And the number of lives that these kits have saved is pretty impressive, and it's certainly worth it's worth the time and trouble to do that and take one of the online courses again that are all free and available widely. So just a bit of a commercial or a bit of a plug there for public safety. Colleen, did you have a comment on this?
I did. I just wanted to advise the board that the OPL team, the recreation and culture team, and I met with public health, so senior officials within public health. They were thrilled that we were taking such a proactive stance on installing naloxone spray, and we're also going to be formally training all of our staff. So this is essentially an expansion of our first aid program. We have also collaborated with Oakville Fire Service as well, and we're expanding on their existing standard operating procedure because they have been administering naloxone for some time. So this has been an outstanding collaborative effort. We're incredibly proud, and as I said, public health was thrilled that the town of Oakville and OPL were taking such a proactive stance. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thanks, Colleen. That's great. And I'll point out as well that it's wonderful that we are doing this as a town and as a library. A lot of organizations are still very nervous about doing it. They're concerned about liability. They're concerned about a whole range of issues. And the Good Samaritans Act covers you for any liability, and it's certainly something to do. I've actually haven't witnessed the use in an emergency, but I am aware that my wife's agency has actually been involved in saving a few lives because of naloxone and the rapid availability of it at her agency's office. So again, I recommend strongly that don't just passively say it's great that we're getting this library. Take a moment and grab a kit for yourself as well. End of commercial. Move on.
Absolutely agreed. So as mentioned, as part of the Fleet Services SLA, I thought you'd give a look at our new OPL van. It took almost 3 years from when we ordered it to when it hit the street, but it hit the street officially today. So if you see it out and about in the community, make sure to wave at our drivers. Next slide, please. So you may have seen, if you've been on our OPL website or monitoring our socials, that we are in the midst of a major back-end upgrade to our integrated library system, which is basically our back-end database system. Contains all information about our customers, our books, our invoices. Just about everything we do goes through this system. So it's exciting to have it upgraded and provide a stronger security for it. It has only resulted in 1 hour of downtime. It is still in process, and it should finish, I think, by tomorrow. So there are still various systems that we're bringing back online, but it is a tremendous amount of work. So a massive thanks to our relatively new OPL tech team and information technology services at the town. Next slide. As mentioned, we are launching a customer satisfaction survey. We will soft launch it next week and then look to do a broader push following that, I think in April, but I will let the board know exactly when we do the push for that. It is a survey that is a consistent survey. So even though we'll do the plan is to do pushes twice a year, it is also always available. And we will be embedding it not only in our website, but in possibly other places so that people have easy access to it. We went with Counting Opinions, which is one of the library leaders in this type of survey. They provide this service for a significant number of public libraries across North America, which will also allow us to do some pretty strong comparisons. So we're excited to start getting information in there. It offers 3 different types of surveys. So depending on how much time somebody has, they can opt to do a short, a medium, or a long survey, hoping that provides people different options depending, again, how much time they have and how much information that they want to give us. So more information to come with that once it is rolled out. Next slide, please. So HIP is participating in a victim services data project with Find Help in the Ministry of Children and Community Social Services. It is, again, just speaks to the importance that HIP and the data that it collects has in the community, not just locally, but also with broader, again, with Find Help and Ontario 211. We're especially pleased that we're actually getting compensated for the extra work that is done. And that's part of our ongoing commitment to making sure that people outside of HIP recognize the value of the data that we have and that we constantly ensure it is up to date. So we're excited to be part of that project. Next.
Can I just, Tara, sorry, can I just ask, on that project, have they been liaison with Halton Regional Police?
I do not know. Is Marcus still on?
I am. Sorry, Jeff, what was the question again?
On the victim services piece, can you go back one slide, please? Whoever's doing there you go. On this victim services data project, has anybody liaised with the Halton Regional Police? Because I'm sure they'd be very excited to hear about this.
We can for sure. It would go through the Victim Services Department and Kim there. So perhaps they're attached there.
Yeah. Well, if that, I would encourage you to do that. If you need a contact, I'm happy to provide it. I think it's a very big part of what we do at Halton Regional Police, and I know that they'd be interested in knowing more about this. Victim service is very important to the team.
Great, I will do that if you can give me a contact, or I can go through Kim, the director of the Victim Services.
Yeah, I'll check who the best contact is. I'm pretty sure it's Jeff Hill, Deputy Jeff Hill, but I'll double check.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Marcus.
Just an update that our story walks are updated for spring. So if you're out and about, hopefully when we get some warmer weather again, you can take a peek down to Bronte Heritage Waterfront Park, Cannery and Waterworks Park, or George Savage Park and check out some of our new story walks. Next. So Family Day is always a really big hit for us. Not sure if anybody was out, but I was out at both branches on Family Day, and they were hopping, which is always amazing to see. So on Family Day, we only opened 2 of our branches, Iroquois Ridge and Glen Abbey branch. We offered 13 programs in total for both of them, including things like fun making, dance party, exploration stations. We had board games set up, family die cut crafts, and then a giant scavenger hunt, which was super fun to watch. We had about just over 1,600 people participate in those programmings with total traffic over 2,500 between the 2 branches. So definitely a packed house at both of those locations. Next slide, please. March break is also a significant busy time for us. We offered about 36 additional programs beyond what our regular weekly programming is. And we hosted about over 700 participants in those 36 programs. We were excited to offer a seed ball workshop. It was really well received last year, so we repeated that, as well as different programs with partners. I can't see the bottom of the slide, hold on. And we introduced some new programs related to sewing the earbud case and hand sewing emojis. expanding, again, some of our programming into our creation zone, beyond crickets and into more actively using our sewing machines. Exciting. Next slide, please. We also have our very first independent author showcase coming up on April 21st. It will take place on Central Branch. We're looking to promote local discovery of local books, writers, and publishers. We'll have different speaking opportunities for the authors to be able to speak to the public. We always have people interested about how to get their book published and are always interested in talking with independent authors. So we think this will be quite the exciting event. If any of you know local authors, absolutely have them reach out. We are looking for applications to participate in the showcase. Next slide, please. Again, with the warmer weather, hopefully around the corner, we are looking to activate the Glen Abbey outdoor space. Starting in May, on Tuesdays, you will see trivia night from 7 to 8, and we're excited to introduce weekly PJ story time on the patio on Thursday evening. So hopefully members of the board will be able to take advantage of this amazing space. We're really excited to have it open again for 2024. Next slide. Reminder that there is no April meeting. We'll resume in May. And I think, is that the last slide?
It is.
Okay. Yeah, I meant to, I thought I updated it beforehand. The only other thing that I want to address, it was in the report, is the board assemblies. So every year, the Ontario Library Service hosts board assemblies, which allows board to trustees to connect with each other depending on the size of their library. The one for us, which is populations over 150,000, is coming up in May. Bill has attended in the past. So I just want to say, if anybody is interested in attending, please let me know and I can connect them with the Ontario Library Service.
And that's it?
That is it.
As if that wasn't enough. Just one quick, could you send me the slide deck so I could, I just want to send that slide over to the police service so they can just connect the dots on that and make sure it's efficiently managed.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you.
Any questions for Tara? Celso?
Yeah, I just, because you went very quickly over the back-end system replacement, and I know too well what it takes to do one of these, and it's an incredible amount of effort and testing, and there's so much that could go wrong, and none of which did. So I just wanted to publicly recognize your team for such a great, seamless job on that.
Yeah, that is Monica Sokol, our manager of technology and projects. She's exceptional.
That's awesome. Thanks, Celso. Appreciate you calling that out. Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? Thank you, Celso. Seconded by Meredith. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, members of the board, I want to draw your attention to, we have two confidential discussion items, 8.1 and 8.2. 8.1 being the collective bargaining update, and 8.2, the 2023 CEO evaluation. Technically, we don't have to go on camera. The collective bargaining doesn't require action. It's simply information. The information is contained in the memo. And the CEO evaluation, you all participated in it. You've had a chance to read it. So as a reward to our awesome CEO, perhaps we can just approve it in public session and let her have the rest of the night off. Or if you want to go into camera to discuss either one of those, I'm happy to entertain a motion to that degree as well. Not seeing any hands going up. Would somebody like to approve or move the motions contained in the confidential section? Rebecca and Meredith, any further discussions, comments, questions? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, members of the board, we come to the point of new business. And I have some sad new business to report that, and as I announced last month, we are about to say goodbye to our friend and our champion of the library system, Colleen Bell, is retiring effective tomorrow. And she is spending her retirement eve with us. So we should be greatly honored by that. But I just want to say a couple words that Colleen has been an absolute star as it comes to the library. Some of you know, not all of you, I think Bill may know, but not everybody knows about the rocky road that the library went through several years back. And it was due to Colleen's intervention and ingenuity and frankly brilliance that she was able to help us pull this thing back together. And it's been running like a well-oiled machine ever since. She was involved in getting us reorganized, convincing me to become chair of the board, and most importantly, she led the CEO recruitment and found us, well, she was already working for us at the time, but basically encouraged us strongly to hire Tara to become our CEO, which is probably one of the best decisions we've made as a group in a long time. Colleen has been an absolute gem to work with at the town. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people over the 24 years I've served on council, but very few have risen to the standard that Colleen has done. I attended her retirement party. It was yesterday, wasn't it? Was it yesterday? A day before yesterday. See, my days are all blurring. Tuesday, they're all blurring. And hearing the tributes to Colleen and the attendance at this meeting, you'd think that it was a rock star concert. Like it was pretty impressive. Her team are absolutely infatuated with her, and I know that they're all going to have to go through PTSD treatments following her departure tomorrow. And I know that I'm going to have to do the same, so I'll be joining them because it's the town's not going to be the same without Colleen. She's had a fantastic career in public service, working for the city of Toronto. We won't hold that against her. Metrolinx, the city of Guelph, and of course the town of Oakville. I think I missed one or two along the way.
YMCA.
YMCA, I knew that was a big one too. That was an important one. And she has left a trail of excellent feedback from everybody. She's well regarded in all of those positions. I learned the other day, which was interesting, that she led the initiative for the city of Toronto in the 311 project, which people take for granted, but I served on this 311 committee at Halton Region, and it was no easy task at Halton. I can't even imagine the chaos that ensued in the city of Toronto as she managed to pull that through. But she did. It's an effective project, and I know the city of Toronto folks can rest easy knowing that the 311 resource is available for municipal connections across the board. So I know that many of you haven't had a long time to work with Colleen, and I'm sorry for that. But you've all seen the outcome of her advocacy for our library, for her stewardship of our senior manager. She's been a huge resource to Tara. She's been a friend to libraries, and I know I'm going to miss her dearly. But we're going to stay in touch with social media, and maybe we'll get her to come out to Oakville and volunteer or do something that continues her love of our community, even though she doesn't live here yet.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you, Colleen, to our Commissioner of Fun, and you will be missed. And I hope you have a great last day. Thank you. Stay in touch. The library is indebted. The library is indebted to your service, and we will not be forgetting you anytime soon. So thank you very much, Colleen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I have always been passionate about libraries from when I was little. My parents used to take us to the library every single week and come home with giant bags of books. And I have a great love of reading. I was delighted when I came to Oakville to discover that the library was going to be part of my portfolio. I've loved working with the board. This is an extraordinary board. I brag about you all the time. You are so passionate and caring and dedicated to the cause. It's just a joy. When we did the Parks Rec Library Master Plan public consultation, the consultant came back after the meeting with this board and just waxed poetic. He couldn't believe how fabulous you were. So thank you so much. It's been truly an honor and a pleasure. And Tara is also a rock star. And I just want to say thank you.
Tara was, Colleen was presented with a whole pile of different gifts from different departments the other night, and they were very impressive gifts, ranging from some silly things right through to some travel money to go and embark on her post-retirement travel time. But she was also given a book from the library, socks, and a bunch of other branded things. I just want to clarify with Tara, Was that checked out? Did we check that out on her card? Or was that actually like, did we just take it off the shelf and give it to her?
You know.
Well, we'll be checking.
We won't discuss it.
We'll be checking. Fortunately, we don't have fines anymore, so
that's right.
Yeah. Members of the board, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, I hope you got an OPL bag for all your books. And the other thing I wanted to say, like personally, I've known you for quite a number of years, and you've been a fantastic supporter of anything that I've been involved in. And I know one of which is the arts, and we're very lucky to have you there at Town Hall supporting us when things get rough, and you've always been there. So I've always had a great relationship with you, and I will certainly miss you for sure.
I will miss you too, Bill. You're awesome.
Okay, thanks, gang. Is there any other new business to come before the board tonight? Other than a motion to not accept Pauline's resignation? Celso, are you moving that motion?
Exactly. Okay. Yes, that's right.
I think that's called indentured servitude. So we may have to get a legal opinion on that. Seeing that there's no further business, when is the next meeting then? It's the May meeting, I assume then.
It is May 16th.
Okay, so May 16th is the next meeting at 7 o'clock. At this time, we don't know whether it'll be virtual or in person. It depends on the enhancements to the security system at the council chambers, but we will keep you apprised of that. With that, members of the board, once again, thank you to Colleen. Can I get a motion to adjourn today's meeting, please? No? Okay. And Colleen can't leave, just so you know, if we don't adjourn. Meredith and Bill, all in favor? That's carried. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening, and have a great last day tomorrow, Colleen.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Colleen. Thank you for
We will be in touch. We will be in touch.
Thanks, Colleen.
I know.